Hi, I'm Dan Sweet. I'm Director of Public Relations and Communications for Helicopter Association International, and welcome to our webinar for this week. We are pleased that you took time out of your schedule to join us. We know that our industry is a busy one, and we know that your time is valuable. So let's just jump right in here. I'll get my screen sharing started. Our topic today is how to prepare for crisis communications. And some of you may be wondering why we're holding a webinar on this. We've talked about this at Heli Expo for a couple of years. One of the things that we're looking to do is HAI knows that a large number of our businesses are smaller businesses. We know that the single helicopter operator is wearing many hats. The person in charge doesn't have time or hasn't had the opportunity to attend classes in absolutely every part of the business that he or she needs to do to operate the business. And so HAI wants to help. And so what we're going to do is what we had called Communications University or CommsU at Heli Expo. We are going to be expanding into a member benefit for HAI members that we haven't really come up with a name yet. It might be Rotary University, it might be the Small Business Academy, but what it's going to be is a series of courses that we want to provide to you that we think will help you make your business succeed. That said, we want to know what you need that would help your business succeed. And so my email address is all over these webinars, dan.sweet@rotor.org. Please send me an email on any type of classes that you think would help you run your business. And it doesn't need to be a small business operator. Some of you may be part of a smaller organization, small teams, things like that. Let us know. And we know that finances, taxes, human resources, regulatory issues, record keeping, there's any number of factors that go into operating a small business. We have the deepest respect for the people that are doing this, and we want to do everything we can to help them succeed. And so that's why today we are holding a course in crisis communications. Speaker today, me. Normally I'm behind the scenes during most of the webinars, but this is an area where I have expertise. And that's another part of why we want to do these courses is we have access to a large number of subject matter experts. So just background on me, we don't normally get into my background on webinars. I started out my career as a Navy journalist, later trained as a Navy photojournalist, and I served as a representative of a public affairs office for Naval Base Seattle. That was an administrative command that covered Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and several states in the Midwest. And we were working with the media literally on a daily basis. After I left the Navy, I attended the University of Oregon and then went to work for Columbia Helicopters in Oregon. And I was there for 23 years at Columbia. And now I'm at Helicopter Association International. And so if you do the math, I've been in aviation for about 30 years. And if you've been in aviation for any length of time, you know that during that period, that long of a period, tragedy is going to strike. It's just going to happen. I've also worked with many reporters over the years, I guess decades. And I've learned that building relationships, and that's something I'm going to be talking a little bit about this afternoon, building relationships in advance of a crisis situation can pay huge dividends. If this is the first time you've been on one of our webinars, welcome. We do try to make our webinars interactive, so please feel free to ask questions. We'll probably hold, I can guarantee I'm going to hold the questions until the end of the webinar. I'm going to run through my PowerPoint slides first. We know that Zoom has both a question module and a chat module. Please use the question module for your questions. You're welcome to use the chat to talk amongst yourselves, whatever you'd like to do, but I will focus on the question module. Normally I have Jasmine Foote, who's our social media manager, helping me behind the scenes with our questions. She's not available today. And so I'm going to be needing to go through them pretty specifically. And so please use the question module only for your questions. Our webinars are being recorded. We are going to make the recordings available through YouTube and our website. Usually it takes at least 24 hours to get them posted. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer. We will do our best to get them up there as quickly as possible. Feel free to share them. So let's go ahead and get started. As I said, this is the course that we offer at Heli Expo. So you're going to see the Heli Expo slide deck. One of the things I want to start out with right before we even get into anything else is resources that you should consider making a part of your toolkit before you need them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about them here and out there throughout the webinar. But you will, depending on your business and depending on your role in business, it doesn't hurt to have a legal counsel talk through things with you. I'm going to provide a template here very shortly, or I'm going to talk about a template for crisis communications plan. I encourage you to create your own plan, and you may want to have legal counsel refer to some of the things that you'll be including in it. One person should not be doing crisis communications. You should be part of a team. You should be creating a team, and that includes your management and staff. So start thinking about that as well. One resource that most people don't think about, in the case of an accident or an incident or an unfortunate situation, the NTSB. Normally, the NTSB is seen as the investigatory agency. They do a brilliant job of that. They also have a communications team. And when if they come in to investigate an accident involving your company, they will take over communications at a certain point. That's actually a huge relief off of you, because then all of a sudden you don't have to work with reporters. You can pass them on to the NTSB. Also keep in mind at HAI, the communications team, the management team, the operations team at HAI, we may be available to help you as well. And then, of course, you may also need external public relations assistance, and there's plenty of external public relations businesses throughout the United States. Many of them specialize in aviation. So basically what I've just started saying is plan ahead. And I know that this course is only going to be last for 30 to 40 minutes, something like that. We could probably make this a full day class, and we may do that in the future. We haven't really decided. Right up front, I'm going to say that this is the class that we hope you never need. Again, the fact that you're planning ahead right now, that's your goal. You want to be prepared. The speed at which accidents become newsworthy is stunning. It's not like it used to be where phone calls, wire services, things took forever. It is stunning how fast things happen. So bottom line up front, a friend used to say, the point in your flight when the engine quit is not the time to begin practicing auto rotations. You need to be working ahead of time always to make sure that you're ready to do something like this. Accidents happen in the helicopter industry, and companies have to be prepared to communicate effectively. For the purpose of this course, we are going to focus on an accident scenario just because that's easier to discuss. But there are going to be other newsworthy things that might happen. And so we will get onto that here in a minute. With an established, rehearsed plan, companies should be able to successfully communicate the details of an accident and control the message until they're relieved by the responsibility of the NTSB or until the story life is over. And that happens also at a much faster rate than it used to. HAI members, many of you are probably HAI members. You may not even know it. I know that we ask a question during the registration. If you have any doubt, if you're an HAI member, ask around your staff. We are going to provide a template of a crisis communications plan to our HAI members. We can't provide it to everybody. We are a membership-based organization, and so we try to have to find a balance here. It's going to be generated around an accident. The plan works. And in full honesty, full disclosure, when I worked at Columbia Helicopters, I did not have this crisis communication plan put together. This is something I developed later on. And it became necessary because of the speed at which news travels these days. And I will say that back in 2020, I adapted my template, my communications plan for Heli Expo. And the scenario we used as just a standard point was that there was a crash of a helicopter coming into the show. For those of you who were at the show in 2020 or in the industry of 2020, you might remember that the day before the show opened, Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter crash about 30 miles from where the show took place. We activated the plan, we used the plan. It made things much smoother. Everybody knew their role. Everybody knew what they needed to do. So it is battle tested, if you will. The template you receive will cover much more than what we're going to cover in the class today. The template must be adapted for your specific needs, depending on your organization, depending on your situation. And sometimes more than one plan is acceptable. Create one general one, and then you can start breaking it down to specialize, so if somebody's injured on the job or something else that happens that's newsworthy, you'll have an understanding of what to do and how to prepare for it. Again, this is a template, and so you will have to adapt it to serve your needs. And again, use your available resources. Use your corporate structure, external resources, other individuals, other departments to properly plan and modify your template. Again, crisis communications is not for one person. You need to have a team ready to help out. Do not forget to include corporate counsel as part of your partner. Make sure that they have a chance to review your plan and make sure that what you're saying is going to be acceptable to them. Also, update your plan. This should be done at least annually. It's also a great way to train for new people if you're bringing them into the communications plan. Sorry, real quick. At the very end of this webinar, I will provide a web address, a QR code. If you're an HAI member, you can go to our website. You'll be able to download my presentation from Heli Expo, which is the majority of this deck, not the stuff that we started with for our webinar. And then you'll be able to download the template as well. Okay, let's get into it. Preparation, planning, and training. Prepare. The speed of your response is vital. News now travels at the speed of social media, and the adverse incidents travels at astonishing speeds. Depending on the circumstances of what happens, your first notification may come through social media. The past experience when I was with Columbia, the last accident that I was there that occurred, we learned from a spouse who learned about it through social media. That's how quickly things move and change. Plan. Many factors are going to determine the longevity of the coverage. The proximity to news outlets may determine the longevity. Other factors including victims, compelling images or video. People see a helicopter nowadays, they want to shoot video. If they see one crashing, it's going to be something they're going to film. You must be prepared to respond accordingly. Training is, again, the annual update's a great time to train. Advanced familiarity and understanding of everybody's role in the final plan is going to be vital to your success during the newsworthy event. It's just one of those things that the more you're familiar with your plan, the easier it's going to make it when you get ready to do it. Other parties, external contributors outside, depending on the circumstances, other parties may be releasing information about the accident and the incident. They could be a police unit, a fire unit, counties who respond. If it happens away from your operation, you need to be prepared to work with other organizations who are also releasing information. The size and scope within your control, depending on the significance of the incident and the size of your company, you may need to hire experts in crisis communications. That's not going to remove the role you have to start with. You will have to be the person who is making the initial announcements. And then depending on what happens, if you need external resources, you can have them come in to help with further communications. it will depend on how much you think that that assistance is relevant to your business. The NTSB, I had always seen them as kind of a scary organization to come in and investigate after an accident. They're trying to find, my thought was they're trying to find fault, and that's not correct. They're trying to find the cause, and that's an entirely different factor. And that's something that, you know, they're trying to do to prevent future accidents from happening for the same reasons. And that's a great thing. We really support that. They also have a communications team. And when it's applicable, when the NTSB decides that they will investigate an accident, they will typically assume responsibility for further external communications once they begin the investigation. And as I mentioned at the start, that's actually kind of a relief. Having experienced this, the number of reporters that will call and asking for information, depending on where you are, it could be a very small number or it could be an overwhelming number. And all you would need to do at that point is say, I'm sorry, the NTSB is handling all communications. Here's their point of contact. And they're going to be very clear with you when they do take that point of contact for the media. They'll let you know. It'll make life a lot easier for you. Especially if you're a smaller business and you need to help focus on families, your employees, and the investigation, the last thing in the world you want to do is spend more time talking about it with the media. While you no longer have direct control over the messaging, it makes it, again, easier for you. It's not a complete gag order. Don't take it that way. If you have a relationship with a reporter that you want to talk to, what you can say after an accident, and this is important for everybody, is basically anything that occurred up to that point of the accident. So you can talk about how long you've been in business. You can talk about the number of aircraft you have. You can talk about your safety record. You can talk about just about anything that preceded the accident, anything you'd want to talk about prior to the accident. You can talk about business expansion. You can talk about how your company grew, why you started it. You can tell your story, but all you can do is avoid the talking about the accident. There's plenty of things you can say, and that also helps to draw attention away from the accident, quite honestly. NTSB investigations can take quite some time. And as a result, the initial news cycle is going to peak and then it's going to drop. But then once the investigation's over, it can come back and peak again. And so be prepared for that second wave of media attention. If the NTSB is involved, your role will depend on them. You will know in advance before the NTSB releases their results. Or your management team, if you're part of the communications team and you're not directly involved in the investigation, you should still be able to find out, okay, the report's going to be released on this date. And you should have an idea at that point, depending on the circumstances of the accident, exactly how much of a role you think there will be with the media. If it was something that is considered to be relatively minor by news standards, you may not have anybody contact you at all. It may just be a part of a wire service story that the NTSB has released their report and they found X, Y, or Z as the cause. If the NTSB is not involved, it's typically best to let the story find its natural finish before you close your communications plan. What you can say, what you should say, tell it all, tell it fast, and by all means, tell the truth. Issue a press release. Nowadays, it used to be, you would hold a press conference, then maybe issue a press release through a fax machine. Nowadays, smartest thing to do is issue a press release through social media. And you can use all alternate means, emails as well. Repeat as often as you need it. A thorough crisis communication plan should cover multiple announcements or releases, at least up until the NTSB takes over. Social media, you have to plan to include postings for social media. And perhaps those should even be a higher priority than some of the traditional media outlets, just because of the media's following social media, the public's following social media, your customers are probably following social media as well. So you want to make sure that you're getting your message out to everybody. Do not lie. Producing false statements or making an effort to evade disclosing information can damage your reputation and potentially open you to liability. The last thing in the world you want to do is say anything that's is not true. So rip the Band-Aid off, just get it over with. And the way the news cycle spins these days, it's not going to get as much attention as you might think. So just be straightforward. If you know, you don't have to admit fault, you don't have to admit what you know about an accident, but don't lie about any part of it. So you need to act, don't react. Immediate appropriations communications are critical following an accident, or you lose the best opportunity to manage communication channels in the media. Swift, effective communication is particularly vital in today's rapidly responsive digital and social media age. You want to take the lead. If you don't speak about an accident, the media will find somebody who will. And they do not have the same constraints that you do. So you want to be the ones who manage the message. You want to be the ones who are seen as the source of information on this situation. To speak or not to speak, there are two schools of thought. Following a crisis, say nothing at all or address the incident head on. We at HAI advocate for addressing the incident with planning and professionalism, which is partly why you're here right now, ensuring that your company maintains some control over the message. Conversely, saying nothing is simple and easy. And again, if you say nothing, the media will find somebody who will. I remember seeing an accident situation on television a few years ago, and some of you may have seen it as well. It was a fixed wing plane that went down, and they found somebody at the local airport to talk about it. And the person said, yeah, the flux capacitor went out on the airplane and it crashed. Okay, they were having a joke. They made fun of it. It went out over the air. It's still out there nowadays. You don't want people like that talking about your situation. You want to be the one to control the message. A company also has the right to halt communication at a given time too. So you can control the message, but you can also control exactly how much you say, how little you say, and when you want to stop it. But do be aware that if you halt the conversation or communication with the media prematurely, again, it can result in negative coverage. What to say? Pick an appropriate spokesman for your organization, whether it's the president, CEO, the chief pilot, somebody, your legal counsel. Let that person become a human face for the company that has suffered a loss. Now is the great time to let your emotions show. Speak distinctly and with the appropriate level of emotion. Make eye contact, especially when responding to a question from a reporter if you end up holding a press conference. Answer as honestly as possible, given the circumstances in place. Be willing to say, I don't know, and offer to contact the reporter with that information later on, but then keep that promise. Make sure that you follow up on that. That helps build your reputation as somebody who is trustworthy and is willing to work with the media. It provides a sense of responsibility that the media sometimes doesn't see. And so they'll recognize that you're going to be a good source to come back to on these things. What not to say? Don't discuss the cause of an accident or incident prior to the final determination. Even if you know what it is, now is not the time to get into it. What may seem readily apparent, especially if you're not directly involved, may not be an underlying cause. just as an off the cuff example, maybe there was a medical issue. It looks like, something happened. Many of you will know that there was a business jet that crashed here on the East Coast the other day, last week. It appears that there was a hypoxia issue where the cabin may have not pressurized properly and everybody was unconscious. That's what appears to be the case, but nobody knows for certain. So that's where speculation comes in. You don't want to speculate. Do not speculate. Regretfully, do not compare your accident with others like I just did. That's not the way to go. This is where your legal counsel will come in. Do not express sympathy. Unfortunately, with today's litigious society, one cannot really express sympathy any longer by using the words "I'm sorry" when speaking with members of the family members of victims. Any responsible attorney will quickly flip your sympathetic phrase to admission of guilt. Work with your legal counsel to figure out something that would be more appropriate to say. There'll probably be other topics you should avoid when communicating with the media following an accident or incident. Your legal counsel can help you, but you'll also have to probably learn this as you go. Include your company's lawyer in planning. And if you have an opportunity, talk with other people who have gone through the process as well. Hey, that's me. Again, I've already given you my email address. You know where to find me. If you want to talk about your plan in advance, I'm happy to talk with you. Working with the media. The media has a reputation for getting things wrong. They do. They will. They're going to get things wrong in every story. They are not experienced in aviation, so they have to try to convey the message that they're learning literally sometimes minutes before they go on camera. And yes, there will be things that they get wrong. Just have that expectation. They're people too. You can forgive them for that. They seldom know anything about our industry. And that's where helping build a relationship in advance can help you help them understand what you do before anything ever happens. And if nothing ever happens, then you have this great resource that you have with the media that can help tell your story when you need it. Again, back when I was at Columbia Helicopters, we had a new model of Chinook that we were putting out. They called it a combi. It had seats, it could carry passengers, it could carry a fire bucket, it could carry a tank. It was a very versatile machine. I contacted a reporter that was, I'd worked with it quite a bit in the past, TV reporter, and he came out, we took him on a flight. We wwent up and down the Willamette Valley. He did a report in the aircraft during the flight. He left the Portland area a few years later. And I would say for at least 5 or 6 years after that, I was his aviation subject matter expert. He moved to the East Coast. He would call me and say, hey, this is what's going on. What are your thoughts? And I would never talk about a crash, and he knew that, but I would talk about aviation in general. And so that's where he and I started working together. And it gives you a great reason to work with them. They are seldom out to get you. They don't know our industry, but they also, nowadays, it used to be they wanted viewers, but now they want clicks. And so they might get a little salacious. They might get a little catchy on their headlines, things like that. So don't give them a reason to focus on you any longer than they need to. So I don't know if I can emphasize this enough. If a reporter is with you, or you're working with them on the phone, if you're working with them in person, every microphone is live. They're not trying to get you on anything. They're not trying to catch you, but they might catch a piece of audio that you might not want to hear. And one of the examples I can give that really brought this home, once again, Columbia Helicopters, I really enjoyed my time with them, had a lot of great media experience with them. We were in one of our hangars. I think we were talking about fire season and preparations for the upcoming fire season. And I was standing off on one side of the hangar with the journalist, the reporter, and the cameraman was with one of our other employees, and they were walking around the hangar shooting the work that was going on. And that evening, they showed the piece on the news, and one of the bits of audio was the conversation I was having with the reporter that was off, well, the cameraman was off on the other side of the room. The microphones have wireless connectivity, and they have great range. And so I know every one of you can think of times where you've heard people talking on hot mics that they've said something inappropriate, inadvertent, accidentally. Plan ahead for what you're going to say and what you're not going to say, and then just stick with that. Don't volunteer information. Don't do anything. If the reporter's asking you questions, consider your responses before you speak. If you are asked a question on camera and you stumble, the reporter will give you a chance to re-speak it, re-say your answer. They don't want a garbled answer any more than you do. Equally, they're not going to issue dead air or show dead air if you're trying to consider how you want to respond to a question. What you see on television or on the news at night is usually what you get. It's the quick, easy soundbite. So they're going to cut out all that stuff. Now, there are instances where a press conference might be live, and that's a different situation. So just be prepared for that as well. Cell phones. Reporter might be standing there, look like they're tapping on their phone, but it could be recording too. So just keep an eye on those as well. You don't want to say anything accidental or inadvertent. Don't talk off the record with an individual or a group. Usually what that means is you're providing background on a situation. That's where you can get yourself into trouble, because off the record generally means that there's something you don't want them to report, but there's going to be a reason you don't want them to report it. Don't give them any reason to even think that there's a reason. So just be on the record at all times, or just tell them that, hey, I'm sorry, I can't talk anymore, and we'll have to end the conversation. Thanks. Do not say no comment. If a reporter asks you a hard question, if you say no comment, I know you see that on TV all the time. The first thing that most people think about is, well, what are they trying to hide? Why do they not want to answer the question? Don't say it ever. So redirect the question to something where you have a prepared answer. If that's not feasible, just simply say, hey, I don't have an answer for you right now. Let me get back to you on that. Then keep the promise. Personalize it. You know, Bob, I know you're on deadline and I know you have a job to do, but I simply can't answer that one right now. I will make sure to contact you directly when I can provide you with a response. I hope it will be in the next couple of hours. It might be tomorrow. I know that that's not going to work for your story, but that's the only way I can make this work. And generally they understand. They don't want wrong information. They don't want false information either. They're trying to report and do their job. And so they're willing to work with you to make sure that you can get the story out correctly. So I know that that was fast. I know that that was furious. I'm not going to put up the slide with the template yet. So let me stop sharing for just a second, and we will get to any questions that we might have. Okay, come on, guys. I know that I can't have asked everything or answered everything you've had already. Nothing in the questions at all. I'll be darned. Nothing in the comments. Okay, well, you guys might be making this pretty easy. Now, that said, as I have indicated, I am available. My email address is dan.sweet@rotor.org. If you look me up online or on the media page of rotor.org, you'll be able to find my cell phone number. And so I'm always willing to try to help people. Do have a question that came in from Kristen. Will this template be provided for free for HAI members? Yes, you've already paid to be a member, so we will be providing the template for free. And I'll give you that here in just a second. Any other from Veronica, any other guidance on who is the best spokesperson, communications versus another leader? Generally, you want to try to avoid a communications professional. You want them to be, your spokesman to be a senior person within the company. If it can't be the president or the CEO, you want it to be somebody who can appear well on camera. There are many companies that provide media training, and that's a great thing to do. One of the things that media training companies do is try to prepare you for how reporters will ask questions, and they like to try to throw gotcha questions. Those are not a bad thing, but a good communications person should prevent those from ever happening. Equally, you don't necessarily want to put a lawyer on camera. Lawyers and communications people are seen as, unfortunately, kind of suspect. You want to put somebody on who can be the face of your company, who can be the face of your loss or the situation. There's a story I could tell you about how one person I was around responded badly to a question, and it made it on the air, and it just made the organization not look really great. Linda Marie is asking, is there a way to mention anything without assuming fault? Stick with the facts. In the template, I start out with just the initial press release, the who, what, where, why, and when. This is not necessarily when or why rather, but start out, hey, one of our helicopters went down at 3:15 on Thursday afternoon at X location. More information will follow. You don't need to say anything more. You've put out enough information that you're acknowledging what happened, and then you can start to expand your messaging beyond that. You don't have to admit that something went seriously wrong with a maintenance issue. You don't have to admit something went wrong with an operational issue. You probably don't even know for certain what happened at these points. So don't worry about admitting fault. Just tell the very basics you can to start out with, and then you can elaborate more later on. And then as you're building up to that elaboration, it gives you time to consider the different ways to speak. From Sean, for small organizations, how many people would you suggest to be part of the communications team? That's hard to answer because I know small businesses, by definition, are small businesses. And so that's where you sometimes will need to bring in external assistance. When we had the Kobe Bryant situation, we got calls and emails from media literally around the world. I was dealing with Sports Illustrated, Vanity Fair, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. There were so many things coming in that we were working with Sikorsky because it was one of their aircraft. We were working with the U.S. Helicopter Safety Team. Happily, the U.S. Helicopter Safety Team was on site for the Heli Expo, and we were able to use them to provide support. Each situation will be different. If you are a single helicopter operator and you have a very small team, it might mean that everybody's handling it. You do not want your receptionist or whoever answers the phone talking with media. You want to make sure that they're only taking, and this is in the template, the communications plan. You want to have somebody who's doing nothing but say, taking names and phone numbers from reporters that your spokesman can contact in order as they come back. And so it might be you. It might be just a couple people. And so maybe the one person is doing nothing but tracking emails and phone numbers. But maintaining one spokesman makes it much easier to communicate the same message over and over and over again. And that does help represent the fact that you're telling the truth is if you can stick with the same message. Veronica, do you advise writing mock releases or doing practice press conferences as part of the post-accident incident drills, or is just prepping a template sufficient? Veronica, actually, I've written mock press releases, and using them as a template is a brilliant plan. It helps you, again, prepare, be ready to know what you want to say. Social media, some social media channels, Twitter, have character limits. And so trying to stick within those character limits is a great way to start out. It also allows you to limit the amount of information you're releasing. Yes, I actually, in the template, I have, I think 2 or 3 or 4 different releases that expand in magnitude depending on the information. So the first one is who, what, where, why, how, when, the basics. The second one provides a little bit more details. The third one might include if there are victims, fatalities, you may want to provide the information. That's entirely up to you. Again, you may be working with external sources, external media organizations like the police or the fire departments or things like that, or government agencies if you're under contract. And so you'll need to coordinate that information with them on who will release the information. One thing I think I need to stress also, if there is a fatality, your president or CEO or your senior person should be the one who notifies that family member, obviously. At the time they do notification, let the family member know that they do not have to speak to the media. One of my previous experiences is that the media, of course, as soon as they find out that it's X person from X city, they go to that person's door and they want to talk to the family member. And the family, in this case, said, well, they showed up, so we had to talk with them. No, that the family should have time to grieve. It's okay for them to grieve. There's no reason that they need to talk with them, and just they're the ones who can simply say, no, this is not a time for us to talk with you. And they need to be, they're going to be in a state of shock. They need to be informed that it's okay to say no. You don't have to talk. From Jim, obviously the rest of the employees need to stay off social media to avoid unwanted attention, to get information, get out. How do you prevent this? Talk with your employees in advance. Let them know this is part of your communication plan and planning. Make sure everybody knows their role. There are situations I've heard, and it's not specifically revolving our accidents or incidents or anything like that, but somebody will call a friend of a friend and say, hey, how you doing? How's the weather down at the state airport today? Okay, well, then they get one fact. Okay, well, there was a severe thunderstorm that came through the area, and so there's something that they can add. And then they might talk to somebody else, and then they start piecing all these conversations together. So you're right, you avoid social media, you avoid communications with anybody who's not a family member. I think it's appropriate that you let your employees know, call your families, tell them that you're safe and you're fine. If you hear from anybody else, don't talk about this until we can, get more information out. But yeah, just tell them, trust us that we will get this information out to the media. There's not anything that you should be doing on social media right now. We'll let you know when it's appropriate to express your condolences, express your sorrow, express, whatever you want to. Just let them know. Work with them in advance as part of your plan. Jim also asked, do you recommend hiring third-party companies? It depends on your circumstances. If a story becomes large and you need to be able to work the investigation and you don't have a team, then it may be necessary to work with a PR team, a communications team. In this case, I would recommend trying to find those people in advance. You don't want to be trying to dig through an internet search to try and find a PR agency that has experience in aviation accidents prior to an accident. You don't want to learn to do auto rotations at the time the engine quits in your helicopter on your flight. You need to be prepared in advance. That looks like all the questions we have at the moment. So what I'm going to do here, let me shift over here again and share my screen. Of course, it does not want to do it. I love technology. Okay, here's the information. If you are an HAI member, and if you have not logged in as an HAI member onto our website in the past, you may need to get password information. You may need to create an account. If you are an employee at a business that's a member, you may need to go to your membership representative. You may have to do some investigating to find out who that membership representative is, but they will help you get signed in. All employees of a member business are HAI members. So if there's any problem at all, again, reach out to me. It's getting a little bit late here on the East Coast. So if you have any problems, I will try to help you tomorrow or perhaps Monday. But rotor.org/crisis-communications-course is the web address where the template and this slide deck with my notes in it are located. And I don't have a slide with my phone number or my email address, but once again, dan.sweet@rotor.org. Just has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? So I think that does kind of wrap things up for the day. I appreciate the fact that you spent time with me on this topic. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're watching either this live or this recording shows that you know that this could happen. And preparation is such a vital part of controlling your message, making sure that you're the one who's sending out the messages. The media is not having to go to somebody else to deal with what might have happened here. So that's one thing that I can say. We usually finish with a question: what's the one thing you want the audience to walk away from? Plan ahead, plan for this situation. That's where HAI is doing our best to help you. Please let us know if there's other topics that we can help you with your business. We might be doing more of these. During Heli Expo Communications U, we did things on social media, we did things on marketing, we did things on writing press releases and issuing press releases. And we did one on how to get your government elected officials interested in what your business is doing. All those are communications topics. Think about other topics you'd like to see us address, and we will be happy to try to work on those for you as well. These will probably be included in our learning management system at some point on rotor.org. So let's get into some housekeeping, what we're coming up soon, coming up next. Our next webinars, June 22nd, it's the one for the maintenance teams. How safe is your shop? Kylie Key is an FAA representative, and she will come in and talk about making sure that your shop is safe. This was a course that we ran during the VAST Vertical Aviation Safety Team Safety Conference last fall. It was well attended, and so we wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to see that one. On July 13th, we are offering up a new member benefit. Actually, the member benefit started back in March, I believe, or February, from LIG Insurance. It's an insurance program for our members, especially small businesses. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. On July 25th, a handful of us will be up at EAA Air Venture at Oshkosh. I think everybody knows that massive air show just simply by the name of its location. I'm going to Oshkosh. We're going to have a couple members of our management team and probably some safety special guests that will be joining us, and we'll be doing a live webinar from Oshkosh. If we have an opportunity to show you what's going on in the sky, we'll do that as well. HAI loves to share information. We have a couple different ways to do that. We have a daily news aggregator that we send out, Rotor Daily. It compiles all the daily helicopter or vertical lift news, one place, so you don't have to dig for it. It's quick and simple. There's usually between 10 and 20 stories that we produce each day or find each day, so that you don't have to do the Google search yourself. Rotor Magazine is an award-winning quarterly publication that we produce. The articles are much more in-depth than what you'll find on Rotor Daily. And they're incredibly valuable. It's great to just thumb through. There's some great photographs. The people who are writing the articles are subject matter experts again, and so we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to see that. If you're in the US, both those products are free. If you're international, the Rotor Daily is always free. It's just an email address, all we need. If you're international, the magazine, we do charge a small fee for international mailing. Both, you can subscribe to both at rotor.org/subscribe. And I do see, I think there were a couple more questions came in, so let me jump to those real quick here. I stop sharing before I get to my final slide. From Mark, just a comment from Mark. Many thank you for helping out about a podcast. And from Anthony, again, just a comment of thanks. Okay, well, I do appreciate both comments. Thank you both. Let me finish sharing here again real quick, and we'll wrap things up. There we go. I'm not sure if we're getting the feedback questionnaire out still appropriately. If you do have feedback you'd like to send me about today's webinar, please send it to dansweet@rotor.org. I do appreciate it. If you have topics for future webinar suggestions, I'm happy to see those as well. Let us know what worked, what didn't work. HAI is a membership organization. That's why we talked about the template being available for members only. If you have any concerns or questions about what HAI can do to help you in any other part of your business, let us know. If we're doing things right, if we're doing things wrong. Jim Viola, our president and CEO, loves that information. Please let us know what we can do to help. Send him an email, president@rotor.org. Very simple, just like mine. Send him your challenges. We're here to serve our members, and we want to make sure that you guys are happy. That does wrap things up for us for this week. We will see you again in 2 weeks. We want to thank you for taking the time to come in today. Until 2 weeks from now, we wish you all the best. Until then, fly safe, be safe, and we'll see you again very, very soon.